Good afternoon, good evening, and good day. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. And, well, we're going to be a little late starting this morning because, despite waking up an hour earlier than typical, the baby and the computer wanted to have their own way to structure the day. And so while I wait for the browser to restart, well, the browser hasn't even gone down yet. While I wait for the browser to restart, we will then turn that back on and get started with today's show. And Anders says, "Good evening from Stockholm. Good to see you." We've got some more on that Eye of Metal situation, and we've got a couple recalls. Well, one's not actually a recall, but it is uh, the over-the-air software update variety, and then we've got a little bit of news. It was not a particularly busy week in the EV and green space, but there was news, and there was some that I thought was worthy of discussing, and others that they just zoomed by so fast I wasn't able to catch them all. And this browser still hasn't even started to go down, so I will force close it. Then bring it back up. So we make it a little choppy. Let me check out the memory usage. Should be way down. Way down. No, don't right click it. Left click it. There you go. All right, we went from yellow to green. And I don't know what it was, but it's now 9 gigs in use. That's not bad. All right, so let's fire it back up and then see how bad it gets. And if you guys hear any noises or anything, let me know and I will, excuse me, I'll mute it because who knows what's going to start up when I open this thing up again. The browser closed unexpectedly. Yeah, really. I would have never guessed that. Okay. Whoa. And then it puts the stuff I do want on a completely different screen. Come on over here. Yep. No, no, no. Where'd you put it? Where'd you put it? Come on. This like window manager is very pretty, but I really get annoyed with it thinking that it knows better than what I've explicitly told it to do. Hmm, maybe no, it won't be that one. Did I just? Oh, I see what happened. It moved to a completely different window. No, no, it didn't. That's something else. Uh, so where's the one I wanted? Oh, here it is. Way off in the corner. There we go. And then we'll take that to YouTube and we'll make sure that you guys can actually hear me. I'm sure you can. You would have said something otherwise. Um, and content. Come on, come on. And then we need live shows. And then we need the broadcast manager. It says connect, but Andrew says hello, so there's no way. There you go. Um, spinning. Okay, I hear it. Next, we'll open up a window for the news. And while we're doing that, I'll check and make sure there's nobody on the collab cam. It doesn't say there is, but it also didn't say it was running. Okay, it's running. Good, good. Mm, my homepage is like news, and oftentimes it's EV news, but sometimes it's like FUD. And sometimes it's stuff that you guys might actually want to know that I didn't know. And let's see what we get today. It's an interesting camera angle I've got here. How long does it take to break even on an electric car? Well, it's a car, so you should anticipate never. Even though, if you're comparing it to something like gas or diesel, it will, depending on how smartly you buy, it will actually make a difference, but financially. That's a very bad way to look at an automobile purchase. All right, so now we need to go to get out of studio mode. And then we need to go to presentation view. And then we need to find the window and share it. But I guess before we do that, because who knows what will show up on this screen, I should pick an article and get that up on the screen. Oh, there. It's an X post, but whatever. And now window capture will be this Microsoft Edge window. It keeps telling me there's like the shareholder deck, but I haven't seen the shareholder deck in any of my open tabs yet. And oh, I forgot to update the title. We'll do that as well. Sawyer Merit on X. That's a Sweden. Sawyer Merit. There. All right, done. Let's do the title first before I forget. That's the 25th. Boop. Done. And then we'll adjust this window so it fits. Almost there. There we go. Perfect. Now we'll move it over so I can see it. Interesting that it shows it's kind of bumping as it goes. All right, so let's start with Sawyer saying that the refreshed Model 3 has won the 2024 Drive Car of the Year Best Urban Electric Vehicle under 100,000, which is really a weird qualifier when you look at something like the Model Y, which was the best-selling car in the world for 2023. It's now more comfortable thanks to softer suspension and seats, plus it's now complete with nicer feeling interior. Yeah, the interior was Spartan before, and now it's a little more comfortable, worthy of that premium and luxury title people keep slapping on it. Uh, I guess it could have always been premium, but it was never actually a luxury car, but now it's approaching that. So that's good news there, and now I'm ringing. But my phone is connected to Bluetooth, so you guys would hear what I'm talking about, so we shall not answer the phone on air. Next up, we've got another Sawyer Merit post. And we've got construction has started on a $330 million Tesla Megapack battery system at a former coal plant in Queensland, Australia. The state government says that the battery will have the ability to power more than 2/3 of Ipswich for 2 hours each night. Let's zoom into this a little bit more. It's not going to be a lengthy story, but Australia likes to buy them some Tesla batteries, and they are doing quite well for their economy and their people. So it's going to be a 250 megawatt, 250 megawatts, so instantaneous performance with a 500 megawatt hour uh, energy capacity. So this thing could run for 2 hours flat out, which it shouldn't need to do, but it can. And this is of Swanbank Battery south of Brisbane, setting progress on one of Queensland's largest battery energy systems. All right. It's going to be $330 million, and it's being developed by CleanCo in partnership with Tesla and Eureka at the site of the former Swanbank B coal-fired power plant. This is another coal-fired power plant being replaced by a Tesla battery setup, which is pretty cool. And then again, the people are going to say, oh, well, batteries don't make power. Not continuously, no, they don't. But when you look at flattening out the duck curve, you have excess energy at other parts of the day that you can then sink them into these battery systems. And these will replace, they're not actually replacing the coal plant. They're sitting on where the coal plant was. They're replacing peaker plants. And so that's how they're able to do what is needed without creating a deficit in the available electricity on the power grid. So that is always really cool. All right, so then I've got a whole bunch about IF Metal. Let's do some more fun stuff before we get into ranting and raving. All right, let's see. We've got Volvo is going to put some electric equipment on ski resorts. And it's obviously not Volvo cars. It's the Volvo heavy equipment here. And I'm not sure the proper name for that part of the company or that individual company. Uh, these ones like Panasonic and everybody that have multiple companies, there's really divisions in the whole. It's interesting. Although Volvo cars is separate from all the industrial stuff. All right, so nobody told Volvo that EVs don't work well in the cold. They work great in the cold. The question is whether you are just barely meeting your demands for the summertime and then you let it get cold. That will change your calculus. So I've got a Volvo L25 electric wheel loader and the PU 500 battery energy storage system with an integrated charger from Volvo Energy are being used alongside other EVs from a fleet of Tagga electric snowmobiles to the Hammarbybacken ski resort outside Stockholm. And there you go. Look at that. So I totally butchered the name there. And so that's right over by you there, Anders. And the challenge is each component is facing is puts each of the components into the spotlight. And this is what I keep saying when everybody says, "Oh, EVs don't work in the cold." All right, well look at all the EVs in the like right outside the Arctic region we've got there. Look at what we've got running in Canada. Then you don't hear them going dropping like flies in Alaska or North Dakota, places Maine, places that actually get cold. You do have to make sure that you still have enough energy in the wintertime. That's the only hard part about it. If you're new to all this, it's harder to anticipate what you might be needing. But if you just take their nice easy summertime and cut it in half, that will be super conservative, and you'll probably be okay. Except maybe with the Aptera, just because it's so efficient, I might cut it by 60% just to be on the safe side, and then be surprised when it's only 40% loss at the most. That one, the reason I say it's going to be affected more is because at the moment it's not shipping with, well, once it starts, it's not shipping with the heat pump right away, and it's super aerodynamic, super slippery, low rolling resistance tires, and so all of those things are going to be affected by the extreme cold. It's going to have denser air to push through. It's going to have stiffer tires to kind of roll around, and then you'll be blasting that resistive heater. So that one is going to have a much more significant effect than something like a new Model 3 that just came out with the heat pump, where the biggest thing that you'll have there is if you didn't precondition the car before you went, and then the increased rolling resistance on the tires and the increased air resistance that you're pushing through. And all of this affects combustion cars as well, but they're already so inefficient, it's hard to notice and measure these things. And then again, in construction equipment and low speed vehicles and stuff like these, they're not really moving all that fast to begin with. So there you've got to worry about if there's any heaters going on and what style of heater they are. Are they heat pumps? Are they resistive? And then does the cold affect, like in this case, the loader, does it affect their hydraulic system? Does it affect the work you're doing? And since this is a ski resort, they probably did all of their calculations for running in the cold. Because if they didn't, that was very foolish. So let's see what Electrek says about this. They say that Taiga's introduction of electric snowmobiles are as rescue rides on avalanche-prone slopes was a masterstroke. That's actually a really good point because now you don't have all of that noise and vibration and such. I mean, there will be effects from running over the snow, but it won't have additional effects of the powertrain. The Swedish mountains and Swiss Alps are perfect places to highlight the advantages baked into silent, vibration-free equipment. And the addition of electric construction equipment to the resort space just takes that to the next level by ensuring that big machines don't disturb the snow and don't disturb the guests either. Yes, no noise pollution. To put it another way, luxury is better when it's quiet and doesn't smell of diesel exhaust. Boom! Electrify all the things. All right, so next up we've got. All right, so yeah, we'll do some good news, some bad news, then we'll talk about IF metal, and then we'll continue on the plan. So good news. Ford has cut the 2023 Mustang Mach-E prices in Canada by up to 13,000 Canadian. There you go. And let's see. Let's click into it and see the details. Because why not? All right, so which one is 13? So between 5,000 and 13,000 on the 2023 model year. So these are not the 2024 model year, but savings is savings, right? So this came from Drive Tesla Canada. I should have just gone there first, right? But it's all in whose tweet I see first, unless I see something that's incomplete. And oftentimes I'll get the next tweet up because I look at them in reverse order. And I know they're X post, but tweet is a lot easier to say and convey. Let's see. So all of them are 5,000 off, but the GT gets a total of $13,000 off. Nice. And I see how. You're getting the federal EV rebate, and in Quebec, you can get an additional $7,000 provincial rebate. Mark was telling us about this last week, I believe. So you get the provincial rebate on top of it as well, excluding the GT Performance. That's probably a price thing. There you go. So 5,000 for most of them. Nah, for all except the GT. The GT was 13. Nice. All right, so then I said some bad news. I've got some more Ford news, and it was bad news. So yeah, so we'll do some more Ford news that's bad, and then we'll do one more Ford news that's good with our friend Sergio. So the bad news: Ford has halted shipments of the 2024 model year Ford F-150 Lightning over an undisclosed quality issue. I think that also eats into my recall section. And it does. Where's my cursor? But this genius didn't put the recalls all together, even though I thought about it. So, like I said, we'll just continue as we were talking about. The stop sale started 2 weeks ago, and Ford doesn't know when it will be lifted. This kind of plays into their nobody buying EVs narrative that they've been banging that drum between Ford and GM. I'm curious what the issue is and if it's going to lead to a recall for the vehicles that are already deployed, or if this is just for 2024 model years. Like, I mean, that's all it's halted. But like, are they going to expand this? Is it going to be all 2024 model years, or is it going to be like, oh, cars from the end of January, beginning of February to whenever we decide have been messed up, and we got to fix them before we can sell them. Who knows? So if you have a Ford Lightning, they haven't said stop driving it. They just said stop selling it. So just keep an eye on the news to see why they said this. It could have been as simple as maybe the painting robot was not putting the primer coat on correctly, or when they were dipping them in the anti corrosion bath that there wasn't enough electricity on the negative anode or something. Uh, Something that's very bad. Well, I mean that's expensive, but this is very bad for quality, but not at all for usability and serviceability. To the point where they'd stop sale and not tell you guys, hey, something's going on, but we don't know what yet. But let's go back to better news with the board and also with the Lightning, I think. No, I mean, it involves Lightning, but Sergio also showed a picture of using his Ford Lightning as an EV tanker truck for his other EVs in his fleet, including his Mach-E's. And I looked at it, but I didn't put it in the notes. The one I've got is he's actually on an interview. So where'd I put it? Right here. Let's take a listen. And I hope you guys can hear it because I don't have everything set up. Uh, there. Right, that Trent says there's no audio, so let me pause that. And because I was looking, I was like, I don't hear anything. Let me bring this back to the beginning, and then let's go into our audio and make sure that the browser audio is captured. Or I can put in a little pipe. If I remember this, I have this handy camera capture device. I could have just played it through the iPad, but I didn't. I didn't think about that. Right, collab cam, my camera, the alerts, chat box. Yeah, there isn't one for the window for the audio. Hmm, how do I want to work this? Like I said, I've got Bluetooth on the phone, so let's do this. Uh, make sure it's properly paired, because I did change phones since this all started. The Bluetooth setting. It was just there. There it is. The one labeled module. Bluetooth audio 2. Let's try Bluetooth audio 2. Yep, it's Bluetooth audio 2. All right, so then I'll open the notepad. And then find Sergio's post. There it is. Oh, open the link. Come on. There we go.
Hey, Elon. This is Sergio Rodriguez out here in Monterey, California. So I am absolutely shocked to see this partnership go down. I am impressed as all can be. I mean, if anybody knows me, they know that I'm completely shocked right now. I don't know where north, south, east, west is right now, but I appreciate the fact that there's going to be a movement forward in as far as this electrification, and that way we can get these naysayers that are out there that feel that range anxiety is limiting and people can't do this and people can't do that. My question goes to, how is the charging speed going to be for us Fords on your network? Are we going to be able to charge at our full capacity? Because I know that with the Magic Dock, when I tested it, it was throttled back a bit.
Um, it'll really be at whatever the physical limit is of the wiring, and so we'll make sure that the adapter is not the limiting factor. So we'll, and the supercharge will not be the limiting factor. So it would really be anything that's on the vehicle side wiring. But we'll certainly go as fast as the vehicle battery will allow. So it's certainly the Tesla intent to make this a seamless and positive experience for Ford owners.
Perfect. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Awesome. So that's exactly what we wanted to hear for owners of non-Teslas that are part of the Supercharger Coalition, which is everybody but Stellantis and VinFast. So uh, if you are using your manufacturer's adapter or native connection, your car will charge at full speed according to its onboard capabilities. Assuming that like you don't have something like the adapter is not going to be the problem. So in most cases, the car will charge at full speed on a V4 cabinet with a V4 dispenser, or if you're on a V3 with the adapter, uh, they intend to make it run at full speed there as well. I don't know if that means that we're going to get 800 volts over the V3s, or if that's just going to be limited to the V4 cabinets on the V4 dispensers. But that'll be interesting to see. So basically, it's going to be unlike the Magic Dock, even though they look identical to me. They won't be doing anything like they do with the Charge Your Non-Tesla program in the Tesla app, where uh, your pricing is going to be different, your charge rates are going to be different. because part of being part of the Supercharger coalition is they've got these agreements that you'll be treated as a first party participant, and so it's good to see them sticking with that. Now, does that mean that's going to happen right away? This is Tesla we're talking about, so probably there will be some teething pains. Friend Kyle Connor, he was pointing out that on his Golf, he's got at least one Golf where it's too old, and it's not that it's old, but it's too old to the point where like at some point they were not running on the standard, and then at some point they switched to the standard. But because of the way that legacy makers deal with their cars, if it's not a recall, then good luck getting them to fix something like using the wrong protocol to turn on the charger. For example, my Volt, the first Volt, the second Volt was obviously had the system. First Volt, you could see what was going on with the energy consumption in the app, and the second one you could see it in the app and on the dashboard. And the dashboard was just like the Tesla, where it's just all software. You twist this knob, and it'll show you different things. And I was like, all right, well, what do I got to do to get this info card that shows me all the electric usage that I'm seeing in the app? Because you can't use the app and drive. All the stuff I'm seeing on the app in front of me on the I call it the electric tachometer on the display. And they're like, well, you can give us $38,000 to $45,000 and get a new car, and then you get your tax credit again, or you can not get it. I'm like, it's a software page. How much was it going to cost? I know there's labor involved, and no, there's no way to do that. So that's what happened basically with his older VW EV Golf. They are not going to address it. They're not going to make it talk to the standard. Whereas the new ones, they already have it in there, and you plug them in, and they charge correctly. So cars like that, they will obviously have issues on this. Did I see that Kim got a Cybertruck to pick up coffee? Oh yes. Kim Kardashian. I was thinking the other Kim. The What she call herself now? Kim Java. Uh, Still waiting on mine to make a living. Um, I've been invited to configure mine, but I need to finish my taxes and see if I'm ready for that down payment yet. Then I'm gonna have to, as soon as the wheels wear out, tires wear out, I'm gonna have to figure out some better tires to put on there. I'm excited for it though, and I'm excited for you to get the call for yours as well. I'd kind of like to do the founder series, but I also need to be responsible. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out, and then we'll go from there. All right. So next up, we've got. So that was the good news, is that they are going to treat them like first parties. Next up, we're going to get into IF Metal for a little bit, and then we're going to get on to the rest of the news. So let's start with. Let's start with this one, and we'll close these exposts. So Tesserati says IF Metals strikes against Tesla Sweden backfire. 20 employees lose jobs as sympathy strikes continue. Tesla Union Sweden. Is the union's approach helping or hurting workers? And I've got my own DNS server in the house now. I mean, I had them before, but like my own DNS resolver. So I'm impressed with how well this thing is able to pick stuff up, because I think it might use root hints, but beyond that, it does it all itself. So anyway, IF Metals sympathy strikes against Tesla Sweden forges ahead. The Swedish union's sympathy strikes lead to 20 employees losing their jobs. In November, they started all this action, and it didn't work. So then they started with all of the sympathy actions. And from what I can tell, if the place that's being compelled to carry out sympathy actions, if they're paying attention to like all of the news and all of the happenings, they usually make a statement to the effect of, "Oh, we have to do this because of our obligation." If they are just believing what they see in the news or just believing what the union has told them, then they come out all flowery, like, "Oh, unions are the best and the greatest," and this and that. And I'm not against unions. What I am against is this protection for people who don't want it and haven't asked for it. So, IF Metal convinced, urged Hydro Extrusions on November 20th to participate in this, and now the 20 employees at Hydro Extrusions that worked on the Tesla crush bumpers, they have been notified that they are now redundant. Another way of saying that they have been fired. They are to be fired. Um, and as we've been discussing this, it's like we could see this was coming. We heard about the small business owner whose grandfather signed the collective that got his Tesla crash repair business teetering on the edge, and I really thought that they would be the first ones to lose their jobs, but I didn't realize that the aluminum factory would actually be the first to lose the employees. But we're talking about they haven't really been able to do any work since November. That's not to say they couldn't do any work, but they were already running at capacity, so they didn't need the extra people if they can't service the Tesla contract. And so these 20 people are now they've been allowed to be fired by the union. So before you can fire them, you got to ask the union, and the union says yes, you can. And we talked about how that was authorized a couple weeks ago, and it looks like now that has occurred. They had some reservations about joining the strike. Among the concerns was that Tesla could quickly replace the parts that they produced with other suppliers, and its concerns proved to be valid. I mean, joining a union as an employer or an employee in Sweden is optional, just like it is pretty much anywhere else, except for like closed shops sort of situation. But so since they chose not to join as a company, then you can only expect them to get stuff done. It's not like they have a picket line that they're crossing. This is action occurring outside of their realm, outside their control, other than, you know, be ashamed if something happened to you if you don't sign this paper. So let's continue on. F metal, you dropped the I there. Has ousted the union members who continue to work for Tesla and chose not to join the strike. So this is the other part right there. Is if you want to continue to work as a member, then you're at risk there of not only being out, but being out with no protection. So they couldn't get you fired, but then when they allowed the people to get fired, those people who did choose to work aren't getting any sort of like protection package that they had for unemployment. And let's see. It was mainly supported through sympathy strikes by companies tenuously connected to Tesla's operations in Sweden, or not at all. Yeah. We talked last week about the folks who service the superchargers, I believe. That might be this week. We're about to talk about the people who support the service the superchargers in a moment. That was actually on Wednesday at the Tesla Live show. Yeah, so. However, it seems these measures come with a high price. Chairman Robin Wallen-Neeson of Wetland Municipal Board sent a letter to IF Metal asking it to withdraw sympathy measures against third-party strikes against third parties in its strike. And so that one I didn't have. Let's take a look at it. IF Metal gets a letter to withdraw sympathy strike measures in the Tesla Sweden strike. The municipal board in Vetlanda sent a letter to IF Metal asking the Swedish union to withdraw sympathy measures against third parties in its strikes against Tesla. So the chairman highlighted that the strike now affects third parties with collective agreements with its employees, and he asked that IF Metal remove the sympathy strikes against third parties. And this is what they call the Swedish way, but it's not something that's allowed pretty much anywhere else in the world anymore. I think the UK was the most recent one to block sympathy action. You can still strike, you just can't have the elevator operator strike against a factory unless it's an elevator factory, because the concern should be between the workers at the factory. And anyway, so it seems that this municipality is asking him to go against the Swedish way. It's home to the Norwegian aluminum maker Hydro. Oh, okay, so they were trying to save these jobs is what that was, and they were not successful, obviously. Okay, so let's go on to the next one that was scheduled for today. This one is fun. It's a little bit of he said, she said. As I keep saying throughout all of this, is that there is no unbiased reporting on this situation. You've got whatever Tesla's saying, which is on one end of the spectrum. Then you've got whatever the news is saying, and somewhere in the middle. And then you've got what IF Metal is saying, which is way on the other side of where Tesla is. In the beginning, IF Metal was saying there were 300 workers on strike, which was totally bogus. I was going to say something else there. And then you had Tesla saying that nobody is on strike, which is also not exactly true. There are 13 people who are not doing their work. And then IF Metal says, let's see what this article says. They said there were 44 employees not working, which is also not accurate from what we see from the independent news organizations that went around and collected their data. The other enders that we often see reports from, and then of course the Tesla Club Sweden. So IF Metal claiming 44, and then in the comments here, I'll scroll and see if I can't find it. Was like the first example I've seen of why this might have a discrepancy, and it's kind of interesting. So let's see. The Mediation Institute recently released their annual report, sharing some information about IF Metal's strike against Tesla. And the institute is an agency under Swedish Ministry of Labor. One of the agency's task force is to mediate labor disputes. It's in their name. And they stated that a total of 1,936 working days were lost during IF Metal's strike against Tesla. This must be a serious black eye for them, because typically strikes in Sweden are pretty short compared to the rest of the world. So they Swedish outlet Dagens Nyheter calculated that 44 employees participated in the strike based on the agency's report. And before we continue on, that calculating on the report is stated that way for a reason. The real numbers aren't coming out from Tesla, and they're not coming out from IF Metal, so we have to find secondhand numbers this way. So they analyzed the report, and then they did the math, and it shows 44. Now, how did we come up with those numbers? No, how did they come up with those numbers? Says Tesla spokesperson Maria Lantz. And she said that to the Tesla Club Sweden. And she didn't say the official number that Tesla has for who joined the Swedish union strike. However, she did share that over 90% of the approximately 300 employees have chosen to remain in their positions, which would be, 30 on strike, right? Or 10. Either way. IF Metal refused to release the number, and the report doesn't divulge the exact number. And it only states the number of employees affected by the strike. So then they tell you about the history of the strike, and over here, there are 120 workers in the contract area. Based on the agency's report, if it only affects 120 employees, it's a drastically number than 300 mentioned in the response. Let's see, workshops. All right, so let's get to that comment that made it make sense to me. It might not be what it is, but it's the only one that jives throughout all of this discrepancy. Here. So the only explanation that's made any sense since this whole thing started regarding the quoted figures. What am I replying to? All right, so Never Again says, it sounds like some IF Metal members employed by Tesla are showing up for work, doing their jobs, getting paid by Tesla, and telling IF Metal that they are either striking or something ambiguous that lets IF Metal believe that they are striking, and then they collect 130% of wages from IF Metal on top of the full wages from Tesla, which is clever and highly unethical. And I imagine there are laws against that, and that they have exposed themselves to some risk if they've done that. But if nobody's checking, I could see the temptation. Get paid twice. Let's actually just do the job once. So, Let's go on to the next IF Metal story. We still got more. This one says, this is the one I was telling you guys about. Anders Nyman says that Seiko has stopped service, maintenance, and establishment of Tesla's supercharger stations. The union board has decided to announce sympathy measures in support of IF Metal's conflict with the global car manufacturer Tesla. The reason for the conflict is that Tesla refuses to sign a collective agreement following the rules of the game in the Swedish labor market. I'm trying to scroll on the teleprompter. That doesn't work. IF Metal's fight is also our fight. By refusing to comply with the rules of the game here in Sweden, Tesla is trying to gain competitive advantages by giving the workers worse wages and conditions. I will stop after this, but know that I'm quoting pure lies and filth right now. By refusing to comply with the rules of the game in Sweden, Tesla is trying to gain competitive advantages by giving the workers worse wages and conditions than they would have with a collective agreement. It is, of course, completely unacceptable. The fight which IF Metal is now taking is important for the entire Swedish collective agreement model. This is why we have chosen to issue yet another sympathy strike notice and increase the pressure on Tesla, says Seiko's union president, Gabriela Levicia. So, Gabriela is lying to you. Because, as we've seen quoted by the employees and people who've seen the employees' compensation plans, and the fact that they don't want to join the union, they are getting paid better from Tesla than the rates that have been negotiated for that class of work by the union in Sweden. And the conditions, the only way the conditions are worse is if you count them working in filth, because you guys have stopped taking out the garbage and removing the garbage from the facilities at all, and janitorial services. So that's on IF Metal. It's not Tesla's fault that they are working in worse conditions, because they were fine before. All right, so Anders continues that the sympathy measures include the blockade of work with planning, preparation, new connections, and network expansion, service maintenance, and repairs regarding all of the car brand Tesla charging stations in Sweden. So this year, they think that they're just going after Tesla and Tesla's customers here, but they're going after all EV drivers in Sweden with this nonsense. There were 37 supercharger sites scheduled to be installed this year in Sweden, and you guys might remember that in Europe they use the Type 2 CCS connector, so CCS2, and Tesla has opened the supercharger network in Sweden, so it's not just Tesla customers who are going to be affected by this. And I guess that they think that will add more pressure to Tesla, but Tesla doesn't make a profit off of the superchargers, at least not yet, and the goal isn't for them to do so, so they're only shooting themselves in the foot with this. All right, let's continue. Where am I? Let me highlight. Oh, I'm at the top. The sympathy measures include the blockade of work with planning, preparation. No, we talked about that. The blockade covers work carried out by technicians, preparers, fitters, and projectors. What is a projector? Projects employed by members of the companies in Sabana and EFA. The blockade means that sympathy measures remain even if another company takes over the blocked work. Interesting. Another company takes over, but that's only true if the company that takes over is part of the union. Because if they're not, then what are you going to do to stop them? Sympathy strike them as well, I suppose. But beyond that, we back IF Metal in this important conflict. We are in an important period for the Swedish trade union movement, for the Swedish model. And we and our members do everything we can to ensure that the employees at Tesla get fair conditions at work. All right. It's not entirely false. It's misleading, but it's not entirely false. Says Seiko's contract secretary. Well, yes, it is also partially false in that, again, the reason the conditions are squalid is due to the simply actions. Concretely, the notification means that no new charging stations will be connected or planned by Tesla or for Tesla by Seiko's members. In addition to this, service or maintenance will also not be carried out at Tesla's existing charging stations by Seiko's members. Now, this will not have any immediate effects on what's going on. But if this drags out, this will, like I said, affect all EV drivers in Sweden. All EV drivers that drive longer distances or have multifamily dwellings that don't have charging available on site. We expect that this will have effects mainly in the long term. This will limit the ability for Tesla to expand its business. The effects will thus have greater and greater effects the longer the time goes on. The longer time goes by as the need for charging stations is constantly increasing. For our members, it is not the individual poles that are most affected, but the connection to the power grid. That part is going to be harder unless you guys have a more permissive attachment to the grid than we have here in the States. That's mainly going to be a couple of monopolistic power companies or government municipalities. So that could get dicey depending on how your guys' grid interconnects are handled. But companies affected are Vattenfall, Eon, Teneska, Firkin, and municipal energy companies. I guess that makes sense. You could be a government employee and still be part of a union. That makes it tough. The combat measures will enter into force on March 4th, 2024 at 0100. So while you're asleep most of the time. Notification of the extension of the conflict measures will be taken in case there's a violation of the strike measures. What? I'm not sure what that means. Notification of the extension of conflict measures will be taken. It might be a translation error. That may mean something, but is that a warning that, hey, if you come around this, we're going to keep it up or what? So this Anders says, no, Tesla is not trying to gain competitive advantages by giving workers worse wages, blah, blah, blah. It has highly competitive compensation package for its employees whose skills are in high demand on the labor market. What they don't have are the union's conditions and agreements. Seiko sympathy measures will, if I interpret them correctly, put an end to the establishment of, 31 new supercharger stations in Sweden in 2024. Presumably, it concerns at least 500 individual dispensers, and which have been open for charging, as also for other car brands, other car brands. The union sympathy measures therefore affect not only Tesla or Tesla owners, but all of Sweden's EV owners. Will the blockade cause Tesla financial damage? To a small extent, yes. At the same time, Tesla does not run its charging network to make money off of it. The big losers instead are Sweden's EV drivers and the transition to a more sustainable transport sector. So yeah, so not even just Sweden's EV owners, but everybody who breathes in Sweden. The union sympathy action just seems to be aimed at EVs overall instead of just Tesla. And now that you point that out, this Anders, that does kind of jive with what we were talking about last. I think it was last week. We were talking about them. Week before last. The last time we talked about IF Metal. Sorry, I got distracted by a number that was on the screen. It seems they thought that picking on Tesla would be a good publicity move. You pick them, and then they roll over, and then that shows how strong you are and how good you're doing the right thing. But the problem is, you picked a brick wall and then an unmovable object So you've got an unmovable object on a brick wall, and neither of them wants to concede. So they should have actually picked somebody who had some employees who were affected and actually cared, rather than trying to pick a symbolic target, trying to set a message to the world. Um, you've lost your leader, you've lost your lawyer, and now at least 20 workers who had nothing to do with any of this, other than they were instructed by the union to, hey, let's continue this, let's spread it out. All right, let's see what we got next. Two more. This is a really good article from I Ortigarna. Stop reading. uh, so Ortigarna about the Tesla strike. It's well worth reading. IF Metal has run into a dead end with the Tesla strike. The support behind the union's demand for a collective agreement at the Tesla Swedish subsidiary is thin, to say the least, as we saw from the folks trying to save the jobs at Hydro Aluminum. The union's demand for collective agreement at Tesla's Swedish subsidiary is thin, to say the least. It shows the report from the agency Medlin Stewart. More than 4 months have passed since IF Metal announced the industrial action against Tesla's Swedish subsidiary. The conflict broke out on the 27th of October and has since included strikes and blockades at work at all of the company's workplaces in Sweden. IF Metal quickly moved on with the blockade against the work with the service on Tesla's cars and products around 20 workshops of other companies. One after another, sympathy measures have come from Transport, Real Estate Employees Association, Port Workers Associations, electricians, SECO, the Painters Association, Building and Municipal. The latest sympathy measure was announced on Wednesday. SECO involves a blockade of work. We just talked about this with the superchargers. Lack of ground contact in IF Metal. On paper, it looks like a formidable show of power from the trade union movement to get Tesla to sign a collective agreement in Sweden. But in practice, the support of the employees at TM Sweden has been poor. Dagen Snyder has calculated, based on the Mediation Institute's, so this is one we talked about earlier as well, about, he came up to, what do we say, 44 employees? That's only a third chose to participate in the strike. If IF Metal chose in December to exclude several members due to strike breaking. And then, of course, with that, we got to remember that Tesla says it was less than the 44. IF Metal has come out tough against Tesla. They want to be the heaviest death metalers on the scene, but they increasingly appear like winterized poodle rockers from the 80s. So it's at least a lot Argulander, expert on employment law. Tesla continues to work. As far as is known, Tesla has not opened up to get the union to meet about the collective agreement. The company says in a comment to Dagen's Industry that over 90% of of Tesla Sweden employees are working as usual, despite sympathy measures. A brand new Tesla center could be opened in Jönköping in December, and several new supercharger stations have been put into use. Now, that's on pause now. The electricians' trade union blockade, well, I guess on pause soon, March 4th, applies to service and repairs of the fast chargers, not new construction, despite their claims, apparently. Because they certainly claimed that they were not putting in new ones, even though this is saying not. As of Monday, the 19th of February, there is now also temporary dispensation for the workshops that are subject to sympathy blockades. So this is the one we talked about last time, where the shops are allowed to repair the handful of cars that are over 3 years old that are not drivable. IF Metals Conflict believes that it is needed to help the workshops and Tesla owners who are hardest hit by the conflict. Yeah, we know that you've got 50 cars to repair. Go ahead and repair those 3, and that'll make it so you can feed your kids when you get home. And the owners who are hit hardest by the conflict. The dispensation applies until 30th of April and refers to cars that are undrivable due to collision damage and that are subject to an insurance case. The dispensation is half-baked. Employers believe that the unions should not be able to take sympathy measures that harm third parties and companies that are not involved in the primary conflict. A principle of proportionality is required in the conflict, and above all, sympathy measures need to be severely limited, says Lisa Lott Aguilar. A no must be allowed to be a no, and this is what we've been saying the whole time. No means no. If you're an employee and you don't want to sign up, you don't have to sign up. If you're a company and you don't want to sign up, you don't have to sign up. It's the law. Ever since the conflict broke out last fall, companies have maintained that a freedom of contract is an important principle that the parties in the labor market should respect. According to Swedish law, it is possible for an employer to refrain from signing a collective agreement. 6 out of 10 companies with fewer than 50 employees chose not to be part of the model. Collective agreements are not mandatory, and then a no must be allowed to be a no. It is also possible to question the legitimacy of the union's actions if even their members do not listen to the strike, says Lisa Lott argued. And I thought that was a well-written piece. A no is a no over collective agreements. The conflict also damages the party model. Then there's a link to the article itself. All right, one more, and then we get on to other news. So, Tesla Sweden stands firm amid the strike. Tesla Sweden is standing firm against collective agreements in the IF Metal strike, and the union has gained support through sympathy strikes. But now, where it matters most is with Tesla employees. Some have started to wonder if IF Metal should accept the Tesla Sweden stance against the agreements for its employees. See, that's how I was reading this article before, is that this was about Metal saying, no, don't give in, to them not giving in. But apparently I read either they changed the headline or I read it wrong. No must be allowed to be no. So they're referencing the same article, so we can actually go ahead and skip this one. All right, so we talked about Volvo. We talked about Ford cutting the prices of the Mach-E. Let's talk about jets. Huh? eVTOL jets. We're talking about vertical takeoff and landing is what VTOL is. And Lilium has signed a partnership to bring its unique eVTOL jets to Asia, beginning in the Philippines. So you might have seen this prototype, just zooming around, or a mock-up of it zooming around as far as like rendering. So during this year's Singapore Air Show, the eVTOL developer Lilium signed a memorandum of understanding with Global Aviation Services to provide, the provider of PhilJets to bring on-demand travel services in Asia, beginning in the Philippines. Staff is approaching 1,000, including 500 aerospace engineers. Been following the progress. So the German specialist continues to make strides in Germany. That's pretty cool. I think Dan started us covering these sorts of things. So yeah, this is what it looks like. I think this is one of their first test flights. Pretty cool stuff. Then we've got. So last week we discussed the post Tesla quotes. My note makes no sense to me. Oh, I got it now. Tesla is quoting this post, and that's the one we talked about last week, where it talked about the advantages of Powerwall 3 over Powerwall 2. And so the news here is that Tesla Energy says that this is a great summary of Powerwall 3. So if you watched last week's show, where we were talking about Powerwall 3, Tesla said that was good. Then, New Jersey has offered a $50,000 bi-directional electric school bus initiative. Incentive. And this is important when you think about how much time school buses spend not driving. I mean, it's if you think about how much a regular car spends not driving, a school bus does it even more. Uh, yeah, they do make anywhere from like 2 to 8 trips a day, but look at the summertime. And anytime that that school's out of session for like holidays or inclement weather, you've got these giant batteries just sitting there doing nothing. So that's a good use of your investment there. So they announced a $45 million 3-year pilot program to put electric school buses to work in 18 school districts. It's offering up to 50,000 more for buses with the ability to power the schools. I'd say that's smart. Just like we're seeing with Australia with the big batteries from Tesla and competitors. So here's an infographic of how it works. You direct to a building meter, possible upgrade of the existing panel, bidirectional EVSE. Obviously, you wouldn't plug it in twice, but you could also plug in just straight into the grid, plug the bus in at an EVSE that can charge it or discharge it, and then have it go out to the grid itself rather than through the building. Pretty cool stuff. See what electric says. V2V charging is a huge advantage of electrification, and the program being put forward by New Jersey can really benefit the people, and not just the usual environmental and public health waypoints that we normally mention here. As extreme weather events seem to be more common, that's another good point. If you've got people sheltering in the school for snow or hurricanes or tornadoes or whatever, and the power cuts, if you've got school buses outside, you can then power the building as an islanding, and that's a lot of energy. So like, incredible. Anyway, back to what they were saying. As extreme weather events seem to get more common, or at least in our national awareness of them has increased, the role of public schools as shelters becomes increasingly more important. Ensuring that they have reliable, carbon monoxide free power during extended outages is an absolute must, and the programs like this one will go a long way towards making that happen. I think all the schools I can remember attending were also public shelters, so they all had generators just like hospitals do. And this would be awesome to not have to worry about getting fuel trucked into them and all the maintenance and stuff that goes on with owning a generator. Cypress says it makes so much sense. Our schools should have solar and battery backup systems. Yeah. Yeah, because if the school already had solar and a battery backup, and maybe just a little bit overproduction, then they'd be fine on their own for a couple hours. But then you plug in a school bus or some other equipment that the county owns, and now you've got the ability to run for weeks or months, depending on what the grid's looking like, the solar array's looking like. It's pretty cool. On top of the 30% commercial clean vehicle credit, I can't see why you wouldn't buy an EV bus. Yeah. So 30% plus the existing credit plus the extra 50 grand. Why not? It's always easy to buy and someone else is forced to put the bill. Yeah, but we're already forced to foot the bill for the fossil incentives. So, continuing on. Got another X post. Oh, this one we talked about already. That's our friend Sergio. And now we get into the recalls. In addition to the Ford stop sale, Tesla will issue an over-the-air update to 8,700 cars with a rear camera bug. So this one is not officially a recall yet, but I don't think it's gonna get classified that way since this is in China. Very similar to what we saw with the icons last week on the U.S. fleet. But this one's not just a simple regulatory thing. This one's actually fixing hardware from doing the wrong thing. Tesla fixed 1,071 Model S and X's and 7,529 Model 3 vehicles in what is being described as a recall, according to federal regulators in China. Okay, so it is a recall. So what this is, some reports are regarding the issue with the rear camera is that some vehicles have unstable integrated circuit communications, which can be fixed through software. So either the camera's not powering up correctly or it's not staying up, and they're going to issue an update to the chips that control the power, and boom, there it goes. So in the meantime, not that any of you guys can hear me in China, but if your camera goes out, give it over the shoulder, call it a day until you get your update. All right, so we talked about forward halting shipments. Let's talk about Jeep for a little bit. They've got the one we talked about on. When did we talk about it? They've got a really powerful car coming out. We talked about it with Mark. But the one that we think is going to be more popular, as in like units sold, dollars spent, the Jeep Recon is going on sale in 2025. It's going to be like the Wrangler, in that it'll have the removable doors, and it'll have the four-wheel drive, and it'll be kind of I guess, a small to medium size. That one's going to be on sale in 2025. And being a Stellantis product, we know it'll have the next port. We don't know if it'll be able to supercharge. It'll be the second EV Jeep in America, with the Wagoneer S launching first this year. They said that the first full year for the Recon would be in 2025, but the exact timing was left fuzzy. So that could also appear this year if the first full year is 2025. It'll be launched on their Stella L platform, just like the Wagoneer S. Interesting, because it's a stretchy platform then. And presumably the upcoming Charger or Challenger, depending on Dodge's naming decisions. Yeah, they've been all over the map with that one. The Dodge, bunch of what do they call it? They want you to be nostalgic. There's a bunch of nostalgic names. Retro nostalgia. Platform also supports between 85 and 118 kilowatt hours of battery. I don't think this one's going to be class leading in any way. It'll be cheaper, which is the important part. So then they had a vehicle reveal. And that's what I was talking about there, with the doors being able to come off. And that sort of thing. You can catch the full 50-second video at Autoblog. I'm curious the comments now. This isn't on their EV site, so this could be a bunch of FUD we're about to walk into. Love one, but what will it cost? We don't know. They didn't say. I'm probably out. I can barely afford the Wrangler 4xe. With the Bronco, Ford placed the side mirrors where the A-pillar meets the fender, so you can still use them without the doors. What happens to the Recon? The same as the Wrangler. You take the doors off, the mirrors are gone. Done. I like the design language, kind of what you would expect for a modern XJ Cherokee to look like. I wish it went more in that direction. Oh well. Is it bigger, same size, or smaller than the four-door Wrangler? I'll take a Briarwood version. It's compact, smaller than the Wrangler. Okay. My understanding is roughly the same size as the recently discontinued Cherokee. No ICE version? Oh, pass. Too bad it's EV. Oh, go whine to somebody who cares. It's like I've been saying, nobody's forcing you to buy an EV, but that doesn't mean that you can continue to buy new combustors, because you're a dinosaur. Nobody's going that way. Although, as we've seen, Ford and GM are trying to roll it back, and I didn't put it in the show, but Volkswagen is also. Was it Volkswagen? No, I'm sorry. I not Volkswagen. Mercedes is also rolling that way. More hybrids. Let's delay our 2030 plans. All right. So this one, all of a sudden, every electric car in Texas just got cleaner. You can't say that for any of their gas cars, at least not through external action like this. So they're putting in a 1.1 million panel solar farm in where in Texas? Clearway Energy Group has completed a 452 megawatt solar farm in West Texas, and it's huge. $660 million Texas Solar Nova solar farm was completed in 2 phases in Kent County, Texas. It was built on 5,000 acres of land and features over 1.1 million solar panels. They'll generate an estimated $5.4 million in property taxes and wages to be paid the first year. That's just in taxes, so that means they're going to be possibly making more than that in revenue. I would hope. They'll generate enough electricity to power 190,000 homes annually, and it's got an off-take agreement with telecoms giant Verizon and agreements with component maker Toyota Boshoku, and Swedish bearing and seal maker SKF to purchase renewable energy certificates. So RICs. Both Toyota, Bokushu, and SKF have 12-year agreements for RECs. Not bad. While Verizon is aiming to source the equivalent of 50% of their annual total electricity consumption with renewable energy, that's not a bad target for somebody who wasn't already there. That's strong. And they'll have to continue to increase it, of course. By 2025, so that's by next year, and achieve net zero by 2035. Nice. That's great. The number needs to be put in context, a particular property tax base. Secret to installations isn't that the publicized enough, is that the dramatic increase in property taxes are so badly needed in these rural communities. So the question for this article is, what is the land generating in yearly property taxes before the field was installed, and how much after? With that, though, you would have to assume that that's the increase, or that's the new number. And if that's the new number, then they wouldn't have gone down for them to even have talked about it at all. Considering that they probably would have considered it unimproved land. Possibly farmland. So while these are great, you're going to then have people complain about, well, what about if we just farmed on the land or blah, blah, blah. That's where agrovoltaics come in. You can put them up a little higher. That's a lot more expensive to install because you got to have proper footing and wind resistance and that sort of thing. But there are plants and animals that go great in the shade provided by the area underneath the panels. And that's pretty darn cool. How about this for context? The $5.4 million tax payment equals $7,171 for every resident in the county. Given that the median household income for the county is $30,000, it's a gut cinch that the land was not returning anywhere close to $5.4 million in tax revenue prior to the solar farm's arrival. Looking at the attached photo, you can surmise that at best, cattle were grazed on the property. Interesting statistic, and certainly proves that these projects are good for rural communities, but I wanted to concentrate on the taxes alone, as the jobs are only for the first 1 or 2 years, other than the generally few maintenance jobs after the project is complete. Well, you're going to need electrical maintenance, you're going to need people to clean the panels, and people to maintain the grounds underneath the panels. So I wouldn't say no jobs, but yeah, it's going to be a lot less jobs than the installation after the 2 years. In fact, I was asking the author to separate out the property taxes for a direct before and after comparison, because those are what affects the wider community in the long run. But this is what the guy was just saying above you. He said $7,000 more dollars per person. Anyway, before they get into their argument, let's move on to the next bit of news. So you may have heard about Tesla stiffing this bakery, a small business, and that happened. Then Elon heard about it, and he says, "I'm just hearing about this. We'll make things good with the bakery. Perhaps, people should be able to count on Tesla trying its best." And some cynics have said, "Well, yeah, he's only saying it because they got caught." I'm figuring that he probably only knew about it because they got caught. It doesn't seem like the sort of thing that he would be dealing with unless he was in that office on that day when all that happened. So the only point of contention now is how long does it take for them to make it right, and what does that look like? That's all. Because obviously, if they don't do it, then that's not just a matter of Elon just saying stuff as usual. It's a matter of saying things that aren't true to the public. And so, as of Friday, I hadn't heard that this had happened, but this is corporate, so money does take some time to move around. They owed me some money for something when I bought my car, and the paperwork for the car showed up on the last day before it was due. And then, no, they owed me some money for something else as well. So I returned something, and it took them about 3 months to get the money to me. So, I mean, it's a big company. That's just how they roll with the checks. Not particularly swiftly. Lisa says, "Wow, you sound like the old school Elon we used to know and like." I have to bookmark this. Yeah, really flippant of whatever employee pulled this. It's not normative for Tesla. I know of a handful of small businesses that have loved doing work and small projects with Tesla events, etc. Yeah, that's probably what happened. Is some new manager or new to this sort of situation, lower level employee um, was ordered to was tasked with ordering the pies, and then the pies didn't get ordered in the way that they expected, and then the person said, "All right, cancel it," assuming probably that they hadn't already tasked them to start the work. They said, "Okay, bye." They texted them, "Well, we don't need them anymore," which isn't the way you deal with the inter-business communications. Then a lot of people attack the small business owner for not doing her due diligence and making sure that there was a deposit at a contract and blah blah blah. But when you're looking at a company like Tesla, you're not thinking that they don't have money. So it's easy not to do everything the right way. But it's good to see that Elon is going to make the company do the right thing. Ed says, "Can I have the unused pies?" In other words, heads will roll once you find out who ordered the pies. I don't think that's what that is. Although maybe the pies were ordered for Black History Month. We'll see. Anyway, let's go on to more fun stuff. Tesla Powerwall installations. We were just talking about Powerwall 3, right? Tesla Powerwall installations have reached 600,000 worldwide. One of those is mine. And then I've got 2 more just sitting in the system at some point. Assuming they didn't get canceled by my move to Virginia. It took Tesla Energy 5 years to sell and install the first 100,000 Powerwalls, and the company is now able to do as many in only 7 months. Tesla Energy took to X and announced that they had 600,000 Powerwalls worldwide yesterday with a short video to commemorate the milestone. They've now installed 600,000 Powerwalls worldwide, and it took 5 years to install the first 100,000 and just 7 months to install the next 100,000. April 15th, Powerwall launches. So April of 15th, Powerwall launches 2020, 100,000, 2021, 200,000, June 2023, 500,000, and then February of 24, 600,000. I did not expect that to take me out of my window. And I do believe this is... it needs to be silent. It's got music in it. They're just kind of showing over some of the things that the Powerwall helps you with. Interesting they chose a Type 2. But they have Powerwalls in England and Europe. 600,000 Powerwalls have been installed worldwide. There we go. So that's good news. Yeah, I'm looking forward to some of the Powerwall 3s now. After what we talked about last week and this week. So then Electrek's got a listing of the top 10 EVs that lease for under $400 a month, including the Ioniq 5, Solterra, Neo, Ioniq 6, Model Y, and more. So this is just kind of an update on the last time we went over these leases coming from Electrek. Number 1, the VinFast VF8 Eco, $268 a month. Maybe not as your only car. Let's just say that. We'll see how it plays out with the longevity. The Nissan Leaf S, $332 a month. The Hyundai Ioniq 5, $333 a month. The Hyundai Ioniq 6 at $339 a month, the SE rear-wheel drive, or $353 a month for the SEL rear-wheel drive. Kia Niro EV Wind, sorry, $343 a month. The Hyundai Kona Electric SE, $363 a month. The 2024 Mini Hardtop at $371 a month. I think this one's one of the shorter range ones, so just know what you're getting into with that. The VW ID4 Standard Edition at $388 a month. I see most of these in like white or gray. Every now and then you see a blue one. The Subaru Solterra Premium, $399 a month. Remember that if you take long trips in the cold, this one will charge slower on fast charging as it's approaching freezing. And then number 10, the Tesla Model Y at $379 a month. So those are some options if you need a lease. So this one, I wanted to just kind of bring up a discussion, really. I didn't read the article. It says experts and dealers embrace EVs or lose your jobs. Analysts agree that rolling back EV policies would be unacceptable, and dealers need to do more to embrace EVs. So this is coming from a letter from a good chunk of the EV dealer group, so the EV dealer groups, the state dealer groups that have petitioned the federal government to slow down their EV push. And apparently it is working because there's all kinds of headlines about Biden to slow down the EV push. And there's a petition going around to tell him to ignore these people because they don't matter. Not that they don't matter, but that they're wrong. They just because their EVs aren't selling doesn't mean that EVs aren't popular or are not selling. We see the numbers continue to rise month after month. So what you need to do as a dealer is stop leaving the car uncharged with flat tires in the back of your lot. You need to train your salespeople on how to operate and drive and sell these things. It takes more effort, it takes more time, it takes more money. But if you do it right, the profits are going to be there as well. Yes, they'll have less profits in service, but they are cars. So they still need service, just different service. And if you've seen the average driver in America, they're not that great. So you will still have work to do. A lot of it will obviously go to the body shop, but we'll have people doing stuff that still requires you to service the vehicles, like people ripping off door handles or hitting the parking stops and then needing new components. So there'll be a lot more break fix work than just lube jobs. But I'm sure your technicians will appreciate not coming home all greasy and actually having work that challenges them every day rather than, oh my, I'm a lube tech. How quickly can I get out of this position? I'm gonna leave this up and read it later because that's interesting to me. All right. Tesla NACS video, non-Tesla EV supercharge. So Tesla is spotted filming a NACS video with non-Tesla EVs at a supercharger. They kind of blocked off one of the large superchargers, like a Kettleman, but it wasn't Kettleman. Where was it? This was at the Santa Monica supercharger. They blocked off a section and they were filming a bunch of non-Teslas charging at the supercharger. Notable non-Teslas that were spotted in the site include the Ford Mustang Mach-E and the GMC Hummer EV. Tesla's own EVs like the Cybertruck were also present. Tesla shooting a commercial video at the big 62-stall Santa Monica City supercharger to show how you can charge any EV there soon. They're filming a Cybertruck, Hummer EV, Ford Mustang Mach-E, Mercedes EV, and others. How cool. At Elon Musk. Yeah, that is pretty cool. Oh, okay, that's how they knew. It said filming in progress on the sandwich board. Filming in progress. Tesla. This will be fun. I can't wait to see the ad. Like someone open up a charge center with a car washing, cafe, lounge, Wi-Fi. That would be nice to add. Like have a Kettleman, but with a car wash. Yeah. All right, so let's go back to the article on the tweet. Considering the presence of the non-Tesla EVs in the supercharger site, electric vehicle enthusiasts have inferred that a video advertisement about NACS adoption is likely coming soon. Numerous EV fans have expressed their excitement with the video. And earlier this month, Stellantis announced it would be adopting the Tesla's North American charging standard. They did not actually say that. They said they were adopting the JNAX, the J3400. They didn't mention Tesla once in their advertisement. They didn't mention supercharging. So then Sawyer had Richard Smith update his chart, and so the red is the groups that do not yet have NACS in North America. So even Mazda, with the car that doesn't need it, has it. So you've got VinFast, Ferrari, Aston Martin, and McLaren. We don't know. They're kind of a pinkish color. And Faraday Future, if they survive, they haven't done it yet. Canoe hasn't done it yet. And who is this with a Civic-looking badge? DMC Motor Company. They don't have a car on the road yet, so they will probably also do it. And so, who's DMC is DeLorean Motor Company. They will probably do it. They'd be so foolish not to do it if they survive. Lee says, "Happy Sunday, Happy Sunday, Sunday, Sunday." It's not just the automakers who are making the switch to NACS. Other public charging networks have also started to embrace the standard, which we've been talking about ad nauseum. Next up, this one confused the heck out of me. I get that some people like this stuff, but that you're indulging them is a little weird. So we've talked about how the Dodge, I forgot the word again already. Retro nostalgic, yes. The Dodge retro nostalgic bunch of names is gonna have wake the neighbors loud noise, like literally loud enough to get you disturbing the peace tickets with their idle. They have decided they're gonna add another throwback. They're gonna add simulated engine rumble to their upcoming EV, and it's gonna shake you around as it pretends to make noise, which is just farcical. And my comment on the tweet of the announcement was that hopefully you can turn off all the kinetics to gain a couple miles of range. Because when you think about how much power does it take to oscillate a 2-ton plus automobile, to get it to shaking and rumbling that you can feel it. And we're not talking like a pendulum, like a clock. No, we're talking like an engine. So it's going to be raggedy. So you're going to have what a waste of energy. Oh. So everybody else's EVs are going to leave you with this relaxed, easy experience. And then you're going to get a Dodge and you're like, headache. And, I hate long trips. Unless there's a switch. So the upcoming Challenger Dodge Daytona EV is expected to make a vehicle sound like the Hemi V8. And it was spotted from Mopar insiders in a patent that the World Intellectual Property Association will combine a few different features to create the effect, including active vibration enhancement, which will make the car vibrate as if there were a V8 engine. In addition, the automaker has a patent for active sound enhancement, which is basically what was that dinosaur with the thing on its head that had would whistle and it would make the sound fuller. They've got that going on with a. If you've seen the aftermarket option for some of the Teslas to make them make engine noises, they'll go into one of those big speakers will go into this resonance chamber, and then the car will be just literally too loud. And so in addition to being literally too loud, it will also shake like a dog with Parkinson's. Stellantis says the simulated rumble will help the Charger EV make the Charger EV safer for surrounding pedestrians, since EVs are near totally silent. I still dispute this. The lobby for the blind, or actually not even the lobby for the blind, the lobby for the seeing eye dogs, says that it does all of this. There's been no proof that it does all this, and the dogs and the humans can all hear the tires going crunch, 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 crunch. And even if they can't, it's on the driver not to hit people for, whatever degrees of murder or manslaughter that you've got to worry about for driving recklessly. Mr. All Electric Car Lunacy says maybe it's a seat speaker like the gaming chairs. That would do the trick, and it wouldn't use as much power as shaking the whole car. Yeah, if you just shake the passengers, because they only weigh 100 to 300 pounds if they fit in the car, realistically. So 100 to 300 pounds each. So you want 4 or 3 seat shaker sheet. That's a tongue twister. Seat shaker modules, and then the loud ass speaker. That could be done cheaper. Yeah, I still think that if you're not shaking up to 600 pounds, like this, then you can still use that energy to go further down the road. Oh, let me check the other chat. Eddie says that it wasn't working, and I did some stuff to fix it, and nothing there. Okay. Yeah, this will be interesting to see how it plays out, and like we say, butts in seats, and there's no accounting for taste. So, if this is what it takes to get some of these gearheads into EVs, then you can do it like training wheels. Like you get them in as a loud shaker, and then you realize that, oh, I'm still getting whooped by the Teslas. What do I need to do to get between here and there? And then they get a car like that. Doesn't have to be a Tesla. That's got uh, more concern with aerodynamics and straight line acceleration, and maybe one that can corner and as good suspension dynamics. And like we've already seen that the Rivian and the Cybertruck, and what was the other one that people were out there looking at going, ooh, I think it was a prototype. But we've already seen that they appreciate when you show them what you can do better than what they have. They don't always verbalize it. Some of them will internalize it like, well, next time I'll do that. But it still sucks because it's not what I got. But the off-roading community seems to enjoy, especially the Rivian, when it goes out and does its thing, it does it well. Especially when it then does it all in reverse. They can only do it forward. So if that's what's going to take to get this segment of the driving population over to electrifying all the things, and even though many of us feel it's silly, if that's what's going to keep them happy, then just keep them happy. It doesn't, other than the wake the neighbors loud, it doesn't hurt any of us that their seats are shaking around as they're driving down the road. Mr. All Electric Car Lunacy says, reminds me of the meme going around of a Chevy small block in a Cybertruck. Congrats, you wasted that cargo space and made it slower. Yes, I like that idea. I haven't seen the meme yet, but I can picture it. It's kind of like what was it, Mark or one of us said about. It might have been the original author who said that the 500 horsepower of the new Jeep coming out this year sounds like a lot to somebody who's used to gas cars, but almost any performance EV, you look at that and you're like, oh, 500? Really? Okay. The Model X 60D had that. I don't know what the actual figures were on that car, but it was 500's nothing in the EV world. I mean, obviously you've got stuff like the BZ4X and the Subaru Solterra, where that is still a lot of power, but they aren't designed to be performance EVs like the Volkswagen ID4. Again, that's not designed to be a performance EV. It's a family ute, not ute in the Australian sense, but a CUV. It's a compact utility vehicle. So they weren't trying to get 0 to 60s. They were trying to save money for themselves and their customers. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Todd says it will alert the driver that the vehicle is on and ready to drive because it provides audible and tactile feedback, which does not occur in other electric vehicles and can lead to unintended vehicle movement. No, it doesn't. You've got a ready light, and then you've got a drive a gear selector indicator that tells you if your car is ready to drive. Plus, if you push the lightning pedal and nothing happens, oh, I should probably pick a gear. And then in the case of the, I guess it's all the new Teslas now, isn't it? Except the Model Y. You push the brake, and if your setting is set right, the car will figure out which gear you need to be in and automatically set it. It'll show you an animation. It'll like push the brake, and I'll go in reverse. Push the brake, and I'll go into drive. There is likely some level of confusion, but it's an EV. It doesn't really matter that it's on unless it's one of those ones that's got like a stupid push to start or a key where getting out doesn't just automatically turn it off. So then, yeah, if you get out of the car and it's still, yeah, oh man, I forgot to turn it off. Let me turn it off. But I think it's not all that. Come on, Dodge. Uh, the systems will work using specific sensors and haptic points on the EV's body, including those on the steering wheel and seats. Ah, you're right, Mr. Mr. All Electric Car Lunacy. They will use the seats. Haptic points of the EV body, including on the wheel and the seat, so it'll shake in your hands. That's gonna be even worse. I hate it when my hands get like vibration on them over time, like running a gas weed whacker. Ugh. Depending on the factors like the position of the accelerator pedal and the speed of the electric motors and wheels and the car's overall torque. Do you need sensors for those things? The electric motor should already, or are they saying the sensors that are already there? You don't need extra sensors to determine the torque and the speed of the motors and such. That's a basic of running an EV. Even one that's like got a elevator motor and like golf cart batteries, like home conversion. The systems also come in addition to the exhaust sound enhancement system, dubbed the Franzotic chambered exhaust by the company, which utilizes a tuned exhaust assembly, like I said, a resonance chamber basically, supporting external speakers to send sounds through a mixing chamber and out a fake exhaust. Oh wait, they put a fake exhaust pipe on it too? I thought they just put the speaker. Oh my goodness. This will appeal to like a couple of dude bros. And like I said, it's important to make sure everybody's happy, but like, wow. This is what it takes to make them happy. I know somebody's gonna stop and try and like show this to me, and I'm like, "Oh, that's nice, sweetie." like it to my child when she's showing me, "Look, this is something you already knew all about." Yes, babe. I've never seen a blue dog before. Model Y Performance 500, yeah, with a warranty and a hatchback. I like it. I like it. um, how can we get costs down? Add a noise system and new sensors. Buy cheaper carpet. Um, all right, so in like more useful news, SpaceX has filed to boost Starlink speeds with a recent FCC letter, and somebody in the comments did the math, and we're looking at a minimum of 1.5 milliseconds reduced latency by they plan to do. So what SpaceX is trying to do is they've applied with the FCC to lower the orbits of some of the Gen 2 satellites to the orbits that were allowed for the first 10 Starlink satellites. So they will actually be 500 and they'll be between 340 to 360 kilometers closer to Earth than they are today, which means at the speed of light, speed of light through a vacuum up in space and the speed of light through the atmosphere down here on Earth, it'll be that much less time to in round trip time, pinging, etc. So it'll be a better experience for everybody. And then you can see the application here. They also state that it'll make it easier to clean up afterwards because they'll already be well within the drag region of the atmosphere, so they'll descend quicker. And then where's the guy who did the math? Oh, XV says if I knew I could speed up my internet by writing letters, I would do so. I would have done so long ago. Dear Spectrum Internet. Where's the guy with the map? Currently, SpaceX is operating out of a 525 kilometer orbit, moving to 300 kilometer orbit with lowered latency by 1.4 milliseconds. Go SpaceX. And then we've got advice to Rivian execs from Elon is that the execs need to live in the factory to survive. Now, he says a bunch of outlandish stuff, and I would not expect the Rivian execs to sleep in the factory. But he did it, and it worked. So he is speaking from experience on this one. They need to cut costs massively, and the exec team needs to live in the factory, or they will die. I mean, that's definitely one way to interpret it, and he's probably right. But again, I wouldn't expect any employee to be living in the factory. But they do need to be that dedicated, motivated. Ooh-ah. Because if they're not, they will go out of business. That's just the only way. It's the only way. You need to be fanatical about the survival. The reason I slept on the floor was not because I couldn't go across the road and be at a hotel. It was because I wanted the circumstances to be worse than anyone else at the company. Whenever they felt pain, I wanted mine to be worse. living by example, essentially. Yeah, so we will see what happens here because they're now in that crossing the valley of death, and they need to uh, be able to come out the other side to do what we saw with Tesla, just like be better. So we wish them luck because we need more options and not less. And Rivian is the closest right now of the non-legacies to making this happen. Did I put the same article twice? I sure did. Sure did. So with that, I want to thank all of you for your time today. I want to thank our channel members and sponsors for our monetary consideration, which helps pay for all the services and equipment needed to keep this thing on every week. And I want to thank all of you again. And we'll catch you on the flip side next week. I say that, but also tomorrow at the Tesla Life Express, and Wednesday at the Tesla Life, Friday, and then again next week here. So, catch you next time.